What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we're doing my 5 buy low opportunities ahead of week 2. There were some stinker performances. There were some great performances by Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, but we're going to be addressing 5 players that you need to be buying low. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. On the way to 700 subscribers. Once you're here on this journey, we're building the best YouTube community out there. Let's go. So the first player we need to talk about today is Davante Adams. Now, Jakobi Meyers was the star of the show there for the Las Vegas Raiders in week 1. But Davante Adams, he didn't have a great day, but he also didn't have like an absolute shabby day. He finished the week as wide receiver 27 on full PPR with only 12.6 fantasy points. This is not what we have come to expect week after week, year after year from Davante Adams. And now the offense for the Raiders didn't look terrible. I mean, they won the game. For me, Jimmy G looks like he's going to be just fine in this Raiders offense. Davante Adams, Jakobi Meyers, it's going to be great for both of them week in and week out. So I'm still willing to go invest and trade for Davante Adams. So you might be asking me, Caleb, well, what are you willing to trade? That's always the question that comes when you're talking 5 buy low opportunities in a player like Davante Adams. I'd be willing to trade anything that was drafted in the 3rd or 4th round, maybe a player that popped off in the 4th round. We could be talking like someone around like the Keenan Allen type range where you saw them provide pretty solid fantasy football value this week. You're excited about them, but you just need to buy low. We're not saying you're going to be able to offer anything that was lower than a round later in ADP because Davante Adams was still going at the beginning of the 2nd round in your redraft leagues. But I think Davante Adams definitely, there's a small buy low opportunity that if you take advantage of it, it's definitely there for the taking. Because as much as we want to say that Jimmy G won't be able to actually get this offense going, we were able to see Jimmy G get this offense going. So I have a lot of faith that Davante Adams' bigger and brighter fantasy football days are ahead for my man. The second guy, and it just pains me to say, is going to be Jahan Dotson. As much as we love some Jahan Dotson had 7 targets, 5 receptions for 40 yards, and put up 9 fantasy points in PPR. This wasn't great, especially considering the matchup was against the Arizona Cardinals. The Washington Commanders got their first win under the new ownership regime. Sam Howell looked okay, but Jahan Dotson just didn't get in the end zone. And it was his kind of calling card last season. Of course, we see him not getting in the red zone. We see only 7 targets. Wasn't an absolute abysmal performance, but it wasn't great. But based on our projections, Jahan Dotson would be someone else that I'm looking to buy low heading into week 2. He's just a very solid flex option on a week-to-week basis, and he has the upside. So when we're talking about him, I'm looking at someone maybe that Jahan Dotson was going in the 6th round very consistently in drafts. I'm willing to offer someone in the 7th, 8th, or 9th round that I drafted that potentially had an okay week. Players I'd be considering trading off for Jahan Dotson. We're talking a guy like an Elijah Moore. We're even talking a guy like Courtland Sutton. I know Courtland Sutton put up 13.2 fantasy points this last week, but I'd be willing to buy low on Jahan Dotson. So those are some trade offers that I would potentially be thinking about as we head into week 2 for my man, Jahan Dotson. My 3rd buy low candidate is going to be Anthony Richardson. Now, I don't necessarily know if it's a buy low opportunity, like in the sense of the word of you're able to get him for less value than you were yesterday. But I think him getting on the field and him showing us that he's a very capable NFL quarterback is very, very much so worthy of us going out and trading for him. I mean, he finished as the QB4 this week. And as much as we know the ups and downs of these rookie quarterbacks, if Anthony Richardson is in line for a top 10 QB finish season, then we need to be trading. There's a lot of guys later that I'd be willing to try to flip really quick here for a guy like Anthony Richardson. We're talking guys like maybe a Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, and maybe a small piece. Like those are the type of trades I'd be trying to make for Anthony Richardson. Absolutely elite level Konami code quarterback. And the way that they used him in this Indianapolis Colts offense is enough for me to say this is a perfect buy low opportunity and we need to take advantage of it in our fantasy football leagues. My 4th player that I'm targeting to buy low, and this kind of goes hand in hand. We're going to be talking about these 2 guys. We're going to be talking about Joey B Burrow, and we're going to be talking about Tee Higgins. Now, Joey B had an absolutely abysmal game versus the Cleveland Browns, and so did Tee Higgins. We're talking about Tee Higgins with 0 fantasy points, and we're talking about Joe Burrow with 82 passing yards. Now, if you watch the game, it was an absolute rain fest, and that's not going to happen each and every week, but the Bengals offensive line didn't look great. The rushing attack didn't look great. Nothing looked great, and Jamar Chase only had 10 fantasy points. But I think this is a perfect opportunity for people to go look at Tee Higgins especially. He's probably the super buy low because if you have Tee Higgins, drafted him in the 3rd round, and you're thinking to yourself, well, what the heck did I just do? Whereas I think Tee Higgins, what players would I be willing to go trade for Tee Higgins? We're talking the same type of range of wide receivers. We're talking about guys like a Keenan Allen. We're talking about guys like a DK Metcalf I'd even be willing to trade for Tee Higgins. And I think there's enough to be said that Tee Higgins, we've seen it on a year-to-year basis. He has elite level wide receiver traits. And in this offense, the Cincinnati Bengals offense, they're not going to be having this abysmal performance week in and week out. So Tee Higgins, we need to be targeting him. You're probably never going to be able to buy him lower than you are today the rest of the season. So go take advantage of some Tee Higgins buy hours. But the same thing with Joey Burrow. I know Joey Burrow kind of fits in that same range with Anthony Richardson, where no one's really going to be selling Joey Burrow low, but you also understand the fact that Joe Burrow was going somewhere around QB4 to QB6. And so maybe if you have a QB7, maybe if you have Trevor Lawrence, you drafted him in the late 5th, early 6th round, and you're able to then flip Trevor Lawrence for Joey Burrow, that would be a move I would even be trying to do. If maybe you have the guy liked the way Deshaun Watson looked in week 1, maybe he's a Cleveland Browns fan, trade Deshaun Watson for Joey Burrow. Those are some ideas that I would be trying to do to get Joe Burrow on my roster, because I know he doesn't necessarily have the rushing upside, but when you're throwing to Tee Higgins, when you're throwing to Jamar Chase, this offense is going to be electric this year. And so those are some 5 of my buy low trade candidates before week 2. Waivers just opened up today, so appreciate everyone for tuning into the channel. We'll be back again with another video tomorrow talking about my running back tiers for week 2. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate all the support so much, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.